Hi guys, welcome back to Living the Gandy Life. My name's Faith, and today I'm going to be going over what we have planned for our third grade curriculum for the 2020-2021 school year. Now this is my second time going through some of this curriculum. We have a few changes coming up. Last year we had a couple of struggles with my son, and we just thought that there were a few things that we needed to change up. So that's one of the beauties of homeschooling, is that if there is something that is not working well for your kiddo, for your family, for you, for anyone, you have the freedom and the flexibility to change things up and get things right for your kid. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with our math curriculum, and we are starting with we'll be using Saxon Math 5-4. It's the natural progression. After Saxon Math 3, you move up to Saxon 5-4. Now I know it seems kind of high level or kind of crazy old for a third grader, but this is the natural progression. And as I've said in other videos, our experience is that you do need to go a grade level ahead. So even though we're only going into third grade, he is still using Saxon 5-4. This, I want to point out, is more set up like a math textbook. So if I open it up here and we're at lesson 72, let me see here. It does have a warm-up section. So these are where we're going to do some mental math problems. These would be some just mental multiplication, addition, subtraction, things like that, where we're getting their minds to work without having to rely. We have, some tips and tricks of how to work those things through without having to rely on a pencil and paper. And then they'll do some review. A lot of times it will involve money, maybe adding or subtracting some different money amounts, but that's all in the warm-up. Once you get past the warm-up, you move into the new concept where they're teaching this. Now, this isn't necessarily set up like a script where I ask a question and they give me an answer. It's more of reading the information, and they have several examples that you work through. So it'll have an example, and what I might do is we'll read it, we'll work through it together, and I'll hide the solution either with my hand or a piece of paper. So we're working through it after we're reading the information. We're going to figure out the problems and then check them with a solution. Once you've gone through the teaching of the new concept, then you move on to a lesson practice. And the lesson practice is actually just reinforcing that new concept that you just learned. So I'm always walking through the lesson practice with them to make sure that they understand the new concept that was taught that day. After you get past the lesson practice, you actually move into a mixed practice. So it starts down here and goes through, actually has, on this lesson, it has 30 problems. And what the mixed practice is essentially a review of all previous lessons, just a grab from different lessons. And you can actually, what I think is cool is on each problem, you can see there's a parenthesis under each one. And what those parentheses are telling you are what lesson that problem refers to. So if I didn't understand how to do number 1, I would go back to lesson 57 and we could reteach that concept if I saw that my son was having trouble with that. So I do like that. A lot of times if we do struggle with a particular problem, we go back to that other lesson and reinforce what we didn't understand. Now, I said that there were 30 problems. I'm not going to require my son to do all 30 problems. If my lesson is an even, we're doing the evens. If the lesson number is odd, we do the odd numbers. So we're doing half of the amount of work. I never require them to do all of it. Again, if they get the information, they understand it, I don't need to have them doing a whole lot of extra busy work. So that's the textbook and what it looks like. It's not flashy, it's not fancy, there's not any color in it, but we have found that it is a very strong math curriculum, and up to this point we have not had any issues with it. So we're just going to kind of keep going with it as long as it works for our family. Along with this, so if you buy the homeschool, like the teacher book or the math textbook, so to speak, it also has a solutions manual, and those you can use over and over for each kid. But you can also buy along with it, these are the reproducible, consumable things. And if you already have those, they make an option where you just have to buy this for each subsequent kid. And in this is where you would find that they have their math fact worksheets to practice each day. And then in the back, they have their tests that they would have each 5 or 10 lessons. So the tests are in here, and then their math fact worksheets are in here. I keep those bound in here. There's just one a day, so I just go ahead and rip it out each day. But that would be the consumable packet that they would have. Now, since you don't have a worksheet that actually goes over the problems that you're doing each day, you might wonder what we use. I just get a spiral bound notebook, and each day they use one page to be able to write their problems. Kind of what you might think in an upper grade level math class, right? You would have your math textbook and you would write the problems into your notebook and just write the answers there. That's what we're starting. Now, this is the first time where we're moving to this kind of textbook and this grade level. Every other year before this, they've had a worksheet that they do all their math problems on. So I know that this is going to be a jump and a transition for my son. He's going to need a little extra help, and I'm probably going to have to work with him, at least for the first part of the year, getting him used to, transferring the problem over into a notebook and working with him. All right, so now we move on to our language arts, and what we're using for our language arts is Abeka, at least in part. We're going to be using Abeka for our copy work that we do in cursive, so we're working on our cursive this year. And we're also going to be using it to do some basic grammar skills, and where we're talking about punctuation and capitalization and homonyms and antonyms and synonyms, things like that, where those are taught in here of the different definitions and quizzing those, not quizzing, but addressing those issues. So this book is very similar to Saxon in that it's not colorful. It lays out each lesson telling you maybe what worksheets you would want to pull out and have ready, what concepts you're going to be teaching that. For example, this one is teaching about possessives and how we use an apostrophe to make a possessive, things like that. And it will give you some examples to help teach that concept. So it'll walk you through that, and then it'll tell you what worksheet to pull out. Now let me show you an example of some of the worksheets. So this is the copy work or the penmanship. On here, they'll have one worksheet a day, and here it'll have them practice some vowels at the top, a couple of words to copy here in our cursive. And then down here, this is one of the things that I do really like, that it'll say, look up alligator in the dictionary at the back of this book and answer the following question: which has a longer snout, an alligator or a crocodile? So I already have pulled that out, and I have it stapled and ready to go. And all it is a dictionary of animal life. So it has a picture of each animal and then just a little blurb about that animal. And obviously he'll have to read this about the animal, but it'll say under alligator, it is similar to a crocodile, but has a shorter and blunter snout. So he's going to take this information and come back to this paper, and then he's going to answer in a complete sentence after reading that little blurb in his dictionary. So it's teaching basics of how to use a dictionary, and then using those things that he just found out to make a complete sentence about that entry. Now, the other worksheet is more looking over the grammar. So here, this particular worksheet that I just grabbed is talking about making a complete sentence. So we know that we need to have a complete thought is a complete sentence, right? So down here, he's just going to read these sentences and decide yes or no. Is it a complete sentence? Does it have a complete thought? And the same down here, if it's not a complete thought, well, can you turn it into a complete sentence? Could you finish this sentence by making something up? So this worksheet is not so much writing, but more looking at the grammar rules, some different things like that, where he'll be writing yes or no, maybe underlining or circling things or matching things up, but not as much writing in this one. Another thing that comes with Abeka, or that you can purchase on the side, are different readers that that you can use for your child. Now these progress with their development. As you look in this at the beginning of this first book in their lesson, you know, the words are a little bit bigger, there's more space in between them, and even just 2 books later we're seeing that the words are obviously smaller and more to a page, less pictures in this one. These are great tools to use. I have used these with my oldest, but I don't know if I mentioned this. My second child, who's going into 3rd grade next year, he actually has a November birthday. So if by public school standards, he actually should only be going into 2nd grade. But when he was younger, he was very adamant about starting and was super excited. And so because we knew we were homeschooling, we just went with it. And we have periods where he's really getting everything and excels really well. And then other times where we hit kind of a roadblock and we have to slow things down. So we jokingly like to say that he's in 2.5 grade, because sometimes he's doing really well and we can go really quickly through material. And other times we do have to slow down. Reading is one of those aspects where sometimes we do have to slow down a little bit. So we may or may not get to these readers this year. We may be reading things like Frog and Toad and Amelia Bedelia, which are great readers. And we may be building up to these maybe near the end of our year if we can get there. I just wanted to point them out that they do kind of go along with the ability and get a little bit more difficult as you go. They're great things to add on. I would suggest trying to find them used through a buy-sell trade page or eBay, things like that. You can find a much better deal on them used. Another thing that we like to do for our language arts is first language lessons for a well-trained mind, and this year we'll be doing level 3. This one we do orally. It does come with some dictation exercises, things where I would say to them and then they would have to write. But because we're already covering that in our Becca program, we usually just kind of push that to the side and we just do the oral exercises where we're working on definitions like nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, things like that, memorizing those definitions and doing some basic fundamentals of just knowing the grammar of those things. It also does start out very basic of sentence diagramming. So it has just the very, very foundations for that. And if we can get there, that would be great. If not, since we're in 2.5-ish grade, we will see if we can get through this whole program. But we do like it because it's a good intro into the classical education program that we do at home. So we like to include this because it really aligns well with that, and we'll get through what we can this year, and if not, we'll just kind of carry it on through the summer, maybe into the next school year as well. All right, so I talked about something that we were doing different that we haven't done in prior years, and that is our spelling program this year. So my second child, who is going into 3rd grade, struggled with spelling last year, just memorizing those spelling rules, being able to regurgitate those very challenging words. We all know that English is very difficult to learn and a lot of really weird spelling, and he really struggled with it. And we were using just the traditional approach that everyone seems to be accustomed to, where you have a list of 10 to 15 words, practice those words throughout the week, have a spelling test at the end of the week. It worked really well for my oldest. My second was just floundering with it, and we decided that we were going to try something different. And so the different program that we're using is Spelling UC. Now we are starting with level C based on the guidance of our assessor for our homeschool assessments. He did already know the basic phonic rules, so we were able to move beyond levels A and B, but we are starting with level C, and I'll give you a glimpse of what it is. So it is very counterintuitive to what we're used to. If you're used to a list, it's not at all like that. What we have here is we read a rhyme, and I read the rhyme to him, and then he read the rhyme to me, and then after we did that, he took a colored pencil, and here's a list of vowel chunks, and he went through the passage and colored in those vowel chunks. After he did that, he did the copy work of the same rhyme and then colored in the vowel chunks. And we do that every day. So that was day 1, Day 2, we did the same thing, but we did the copy work for the second part of the rhyme. We're doing the same exact thing. Day 3, we did it again. Day 4, we read it. It has a little bit different here. You can see that it was like a no rules day. So instead, he wanted to draw the rhyme. Here's little boy blue, come blow your horn, kind of thing. So he was drawing that instead. Then on the last day, on day 5, or E, I guess, I am dictating it, I'm reading it, and he is writing the rhyme from his memory. And the idea is, hopefully, through the copy work approach, that he is using those words in context, and it's helping him to commit them to his memory. So you can see here, we had a few corrections that we did, but instead of focusing on what we did wrong, you can see at the bottom, we focused on all the words that he spelled correctly, which he was pretty impressed that he spelled 34 words correctly. We did not focus on the couple of things that we made mistakes with. We focused on what we did correct. And you know, you're probably wondering why we've already started, because we got this new program, and even though we do take a summer break, he wanted to get started. And so who was I to tell him no? We just have been working on it, as you know, 3 to 4 days a week as we have time. So he's enjoying it so far, and it even comes with some special erasable colored pencils, which he thought were super cool. So we keep those together, and he's been pretty excited about it so far. I'm impressed, but I will keep you updated on how this program is working. Again, this is our first year. We're giving it a good run through, so I'll let you know how this is going. That is all that I have for his individual curriculum for our 3rd grader. We will be doing our morning basket time, which will include things like Bible and science and history and art, those kinds of things. He will be required a little bit more than my preschooler and my 1st grader to be present and to be listening. We may even give him, you know, a journal that he can maybe color in and color and draw things that I am reading about. So if we are reading something about Christopher Columbus, for example, he might be drawing 3 ships. He might draw the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. If we are learning something about the human body and we are learning about the 5 senses, he might draw the 5 senses. And we might just keep a very simple journal to keep ourselves accountable for what we're learning and keep a record of it as we go. Now, I plan to do a short video about our morning basket time and with the things that we include on, so you can be on the lookout for that video. But until then, if you have any questions about any of the things that I have showed you, please don't hesitate to drop them below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening, and until then, have a blessed day. All right, can you tell them your name?
Isaiah.
Okay, Isaiah, how old are you?
7.
Okay. You are 7, and your birthday is in November, so you'll turn 8. And what grade are you going into? 3rd. And do you like school? Yes. What's your favorite part about school?
Writing cursive on a worksheet.
Writing cursive. All right. Are you ready for the next year? Yeah. Ready for summer to be over? No. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. What? All right. Good job.